main focus, okay, like I said, these are the reasons for international involvement in Angola. Russia wants Angola, and they want to spread communism as far as they can. They also see an opportunity to get Namibia, which at this point was German Southwest Africa, to get them communistic as well, and then obviously help the ANC in South Africa. So they thought with one foul swoop, they can take Angola, move into Namibia, move into South Africa. Then you had America, who's just trying to contain the situation as much as possible, because they don't want the spread of communism. Also, remember, I've said that Angola is very valuable because of her oil. Then you have Cuba, who's on the side of Russia. Also, Cuba wants to spread communism as far as possible, and they will send in troops. Eventually, they'll send in 50,000 troops by the 1980s. And then obviously China, I see that's one of the questions here. Why is China involved? By this stage, China and Russia are not good friends, so they will fight each other wherever they can. So because Russia is involved in Angola, China will be involved in Angola. And then obviously you have South Africa, who's trying to protect that border, okay, trying to get rid of a political party in Namibia called SWAPO, which will actually align itself with Russia. Like I said to you, if Russia takes Angola, they can go down into Namibia, and then they can help the ANC in South Africa. So that is why it's Cold War, because it's not only a civil fight, it's got all these players involved as well. Okay. I also said to you that eventually you have UNITA and the FNLA, which are your pro-West, your capitalistic parties, versus the MPLA, which is pro-East. At the same time, you have Congo in the mix as well, because they were helping the FNLA, because remember the FNLA's leader was in the Congo when he was in exile, so Congo's also in the mix. You have Namibia, because South Africa is fighting through Namibia into Angola. And you have Zambia, which is on the side, which is getting money and weapons from America. So you've literally got 4 African countries involved here, and you've got 4 international players as well. Okay. The focus is the seizure of Cuito Cuanavale. I'm sure those of you who are Portuguese and listening to me will realize I'm probably saying it incorrectly. But that is the focus. So with all that in mind, with all those players in mind, we have to look at what happened at Cuito Cuanavale. Okay? And that was basically a little town in Angola. And at this stage, what happened is the MPLAs, okay, remember the MPLA, who's backed by Cuba and China, they get almost backed into this little town, okay? And the South Africans, who are obviously fighting from Namibia and have America's backing, they're fighting the MPLA's armed wing in this little town. So that is our focus. What went down in this little town? Okay, so once again, I'm just quickly going to use this paper to make sure that you guys understand where I'm going with this. You've got a little town called Cuito Cuanavale, which is in Angola. Okay, and basically what happens is you have the MPLA's army here. Okay, situated here. And they're also known as the Angolan army. Okay. And then what you have is South Africa in the mix. And South Africa is fighting the MPLA, the South African Defence Force, is fighting the MPLA in this little town. Okay, so this is the focus. Why it's a focus is because you've got so many different viewpoints of what actually went down here. Okay, so you've literally got the MPLA versus the SADF and what happened on this particular day. So you can see here, I've got a little map of where Cuito Cuanavale is. Let me just see where it is quickly. Oh, there it is. Oh, I don't know which mouse works here now. you'll see there it's right at the bottom. You'll see it's very close to Namibia. Remember, the the South African Defence Force is actually moving through from Namibia and fighting in Cuito Cuanavale. So it's quite close to Namibia. So the South African Defence Force can get lots of armaments and stuff like that from Namibia. And so you've got a war that basically erupts in Cuito Cuanavale. Okay. Now, I've said here that there was a siege that went down here. Okay. Basically, the different viewpoints is that the South African Defence Force was forced to retreat because they didn't have good equipment, which was, the Russian equipment was much better for the MPLA. The South African Defence Force decided all they're going to do is they're going to shell the city, they're going to bomb the city as much as possible, and then they're going to retreat. And as they retreat, they're going to lay landmines. Okay. By April, the situation had just reached the standoff with neither side wanting to retreat and say, we're finished. Both the MPLA's armed force, the FAPLA, the Angolan army, and the South African Defence Force realized they had now reached a stalemate. Okay, there was no way forward. They were fighting, but they weren't going to go anywhere. So it was decided, and that should be 1988 and not 1998, sorry guys. It was decided in 1988 that Angola, South Africa, America, and Cuba signed the New York Peace Accords, and basically South Africa would promise to withdraw its troops from Namibia, and they gained independence. And Cuba would withdraw its troops from Angola, and Angola gains independence, and Cuba is out. Okay, so Cuito Cuanavale is basically our focus. But I had to go through everything else with you to explain why Russia is there, why America is there, why Cuba is there, why South Africa is there, etc. Okay, so if we can go back to this little piece of paper in front of me. Basically, in the city, in Cuito Cuanavale, you've got the MPLA, the army, fighting the South African Defence Force. Okay. Eventually, they reach a stalemate. So what is a stalemate? A stalemate is literally just, we've reached a tie now. There's nothing we can do. Okay, if we carry on fighting, we're just going to have casualties. If we carry on fighting, we might still be here in the year 2016. So they reach a stalemate. Okay, and so it's decided that a peace agreement was then decided. A peace agreement was signed that South Africa has to leave Namibia. Okay. Cuba has to leave Angola, and Angola gets independence. Angola is independent. Now, why this is a focus is you've got so many varying opinions of what went on here. Okay, and you can see that, guys. Remember, history. In history, we have biased sources, and we have varying opinions based on whose side you are on. So, for example, if you are an MPLA member, you are going to believe that you won at Cuito Cuanavale, aren't you? You're going to believe you won because South Africa is forced to leave, Cuba is forced to leave, and you've gained your independence. So the MPLA is going to see this as a victory. Okay? They're going to see this as a victory. At the same time, the South African Defence Force is going to see it as a victory because who has to leave the area? Cuba has to leave. Okay? So the SADF, the South African Defence Force, is going to see this as a victory. So in other words, there are varying opinions where it comes to Cuito Cuanavale, and that is your focus. Why are there varying opinions? Because if you are on this side, you will see it as a victory, and if you are on this side, you will see it as a victory. Okay, so that is the focus of Angola, Cuito Cuanavale, okay, and why there are varying opinions. So, Grade 12 is quite a big theme to go through in, let's say, 25 minutes. Obviously, my point here is just to recap what's going on and then quickly look at a source and pick out why there is a varying opinion in what happened at Cuito Cuanavale. Okay,